Hello, everyone. Miss Pei is going to read a book to everyone and Mrs. Oki because she's retiring, just like Mrs. McBloom. So the book is Mrs. McBloom, Clean Up Your Classroom. It's a fact that nearly every school from every country has one teacher whose classroom is a sorry, jumbled up mess. Burlington School has no exception. Mrs. McBloom in room 5 had a classroom that would impress even the most clutter-loving junkyard dog. It was a heap of mess on account of her never cleaning it, not once in 50 years of teaching. That's a school, so she's riding her bike to school. Every year, Mrs. McBloom's students yammered, "Mrs. McBloom, clean up your classroom!" For decades, Principal Pumpernickel pleaded, "Mrs. McBloom, clean up your classroom!" 22 custodians came and went over the years. They all grumbled, "Mrs. McBloom, clean up your classroom!" "Oh, Higgly Piggly," Mrs. McBloom would say, "it's on my to-do list." Truth is, it has been on her to-do list for nearly 45 years. See, it's listed right here on the top. Above, take a fancy schmancy cruise. See, to-do list, clean up room, take a fancy schmancy cruise. Room 5 hadn't always been an eye-popping, heart-stopping disaster. When Mrs. McBloom first started teaching, long before that Armstrong guy set his feet on the moon, it looked like this. Neat. Round about the time Principal Pumpernickel was a student in her classroom, it looked like this. It's getting a little bit worse. Now, 1 week before Mrs. McBloom was going to retire, her room looked like this. Giant sunflowers drooped over desks like lamps. Tangled vines with fat green beans climbed the walls. And a full-grown ruby-red apple tree grew smack dab in the middle of her classroom. Years of science experiments had left all kinds of critters hopping and clucking and flying around room 5. Chickens laid eggs in the cold cubbies. Butterflies fluttered back and forth between the children's heads and pencil erasers. Look at the beehive, the apple tree, the owl, the chicken laying eggs, the birds flying. It's a disaster. There were more books stacked in Mrs. McBloom's room than the whole library. But now something drastic had to be done right quickly. Sweet young Miss Bumblesprout was preparing to take Mrs. McBloom's place in the fall. Miss Bumblesprout fretted, "Mrs. McBloom, clean up your room. Pretty please." Oh, she's begging Mrs. McBloom to clean up her room. "Oh, Higgly Piggly," sighed Mrs. McBloom, scratching her beehive hairdo. "I'm in big trouble. How am I ever going to get this room cleaned up in a jiff?" The rooster perched on the piano belted out a hearty cock-a-doodle-doo. "Good idea, Rooster," said Mrs. McBloom. Mrs. McBloom moved a cluster of frogs aside and wrote an assignment on the board. Homework. Come up with an idea to get room number 5 tidy. Quick. Be creative. Stretch your brain. Use your imagination. By the end of the following week, the whole class was bursting with excitement. One by one, kids came to the front of the room to share their ideas. Sam had invented a super-duper picker-upper thingamabob. It can pick up from 0 to 10 in 60 seconds. sucking up everything to the machine. Lily suggested Mrs. McBloom hire a magician. Then, abracadabra, everything will disappear. Cooper brought a herd of hungry goats from his daddy's farm to show how much they can eat. They once ate a rusty pickup truck in 3 hours flat. On and on the ideas kept coming. Mrs. McBloom recorded them on the chalkboard. Georgia was the last student to raise her hand. She stepped over the world globe, shooed the goats away, and unrolled a colorful poster board. By Georgia, that's it, hollered Mrs. McBloom. A dilly of an idea. Let's see what's her idea. Help Mrs. McBloom clean up her classroom day. All of the school is invited Saturday 10 a.m. If each citizen shows up to remove one item, room 5 will be tidy, lickety-split. Free eggs and apples to everyone who helps. That's a big poster to invite everyone to come to clean up. Word of help Mrs. McBloom clean up her room day spread fast. Nearly everybody in the town had been a student of Miss McBloom before, so the whole town showed up on Saturday to help. A line looped through the halls, out the door, down the hill, and past the water tower. Single file. People walked through room 5, picked up one item, and moved on. The band provided live music. The parent volunteers provided free food. And Mrs. McBloom got to personally shake hands with every student of hers, old and young. And she cried like a baby. Ah! Heavens to belly buttons! The treasures they found are amazing. They found a pumpkin. They found a shoe. They found gummies and snow globe, fire hydrant. Oh, binoculars. They found a lot of treasures. Clay Potter found his library book. It was 35 years overdue. Fanny Freckle found her Elvis Presley lunchbox. Her lunch was still in it. Ew! And after 20 years without them, Billy Brownbuckle finally got his eyeglasses back. Oh, it's a miracle. Finally, I can see. By sunset, room 5 was completely cleaned out. The apple tree was replanted next to the playground and dedicated to Mrs. McBloom. Principal Pumpernickel awarded Georgia for excellent ideas. As for sweet young Miss Bumblesprout, she began her teaching career that fall in the tidy room 5. Good morning, class. As for sweet young Miss Bumblesprout, she began her teaching career in that fall in the tidy room 5. Good morning, class. Open your science books. Today we're going to plant pumpkin seeds. Guess what, class? What will happen to room 5 in 45 years when the new teacher retires? And for Mrs. Oki, please hold on to your cruise idea if you have any, and enjoy your other retirement ideas.